Excuse me, where do you think you're going?
Good morning, officer. I'm just heading upstairs.
This entrance is for staff only. Patients need to check in at registration.
I understand, but I work here.
You work here? Doing what, exactly?
I'm a doctor.
Right, and I'm the Queen of England.
But what Officer Mitchell didn't know would change everything in the next 60 seconds. Dr. Claire Washington had built Memorial Grace Hospital from nothing. 20 years of sacrifice, sleepless nights, and fighting prejudice at every turn. But on this Tuesday morning in the emergency room, she was just another black woman in a wheelchair. And to Officer Rachel Mitchell, that meant she was nobody worth respecting. Claire took a deep breath. She'd learned over the years that staying calm was her best defense. Getting angry would only confirm people's prejudices. She reached into her bag slowly, carefully. "Let me show you my ID badge," she said. Mitchell's hand moved to her belt. "Keep your hands where I can see them." Claire froze. Her heart pounded. This was escalating too quickly. She raised her hand slightly. "I'm just getting my identification. It's in my purse." "Sure it is," Mitchell said. But something had shifted in her expression. She'd seen Claire's reaction, the fear, and it seemed to satisfy something inside her. Claire slowly pulled out her hospital ID. The card clearly showed her photo, her name, and her title. She held it up for Mitchell to see. Mitchell took the badge. She studied it for a long moment. Her face hardened. "This says you're a doctor." "That's correct. And I'm supposed to believe you didn't steal this?" The accusation hit Claire like a physical blow. Around them, people had started to notice. A few nurses looked over from the desk. An elderly patient in the waiting area watched with concern. "Why would I steal an ID badge?" Claire asked. She fought to keep her voice level. Mitchell leaned down. Her face was inches from Claire's. "I've been doing this job for 15 years. I know a con when I see one. Disabled woman shows up in street clothes with a stolen badge? Classic scam." "This is my hospital," Claire said quietly. "I've worked here for 2 decades." "Your hospital?" Mitchell laughed again, louder this time. "Lady, I don't know what kind of game you're playing, but it ends now. You're coming with me for questioning." A nurse named Sarah approached hesitantly. "Officer Mitchell, Dr. Washington really does work here. She's—" "Step back, ma'am," Mitchell cut her off. "This doesn't concern you." Sarah looked at Claire. Her eyes were apologetic, but she stepped back. She didn't say more. Claire's heart sank. Even people who knew her were too afraid to speak up. Mitchell grabbed the handles of Claire's wheelchair. "Let's go. There's an interrogation room where we can sort this out." "I haven't done anything wrong," Claire protested. "That's what they all say." Mitchell started pushing the wheelchair toward a hallway. "You people always have an excuse." You people. Those 2 words carried decades of prejudice, of assumptions, of being judged not by her character or accomplishments, but by the color of her skin. Claire gripped the arms of her wheelchair. She wanted to scream, to fight back, but she knew that would only make things worse. So she stayed silent and let herself be wheeled away like a criminal in her own hospital. The interrogation room was cold, gray walls, a metal table, 2 uncomfortable chairs and harsh fluorescent lights above. Mitchell positioned Claire's wheelchair on one side of the table. She sat across from her with a notepad. "Let's start with your real name," Mitchell said. Claire looked at the officer. She saw no recognition in those eyes, no willingness to listen, just certainty. The absolute conviction that she was right and Claire was wrong. "My name is Claire Washington," she said quietly. Mitchell wrote something down. "And where did you get the ID badge?" "I didn't get it anywhere. It was issued to me by hospital administration." "Right." Mitchell tapped her pen on the table. "So you expect me to believe that a major hospital would make someone like you a doctor?" "Someone like you." The words hung in the air. Claire felt them settle into her bones. She'd worked so hard, finished top of her class in medical school, completed her residency despite the accident that left her paralyzed, built a career on excellence and compassion. And still, to this officer, she was just someone like you. The door opened suddenly. Dr. James Chen rushed in. He'd been Claire's colleague for 12 years. He looked frantic. "Officer, there's been a terrible misunderstanding," he said quickly. Mitchell held up a hand. Sir, I'm conducting an interrogation. You need to leave. No, you don't understand. This is Dr. Claire Washington. She's not just a doctor, she's— Oh, Dr. Chen, Claire interrupted softly. It's okay. But Chen shook his head. No, Claire, it's not okay. He turned to Mitchell. Do you have any idea who you're interrogating? Mitchell stood up. Her jaw was tight. I don't care if she's the president. She was acting suspiciously, and she's going to answer my questions. Acting suspiciously? Chen's voice rose. She was entering the hospital where she's worked for 20 years. Mitchell's confidence wavered slightly. 20 years? Yes, Chen said firmly. Dr. Washington isn't just any physician. She's the chief of surgery. She's pioneered 3 new surgical techniques. She's saved hundreds of lives, and you're treating her like a criminal. The color drained from Mitchell's face, but she recovered quickly. If that's true, why was she dressed like that? Why didn't she say something? I did say something, Claire said quietly. You didn't listen. Nurse Sarah appeared in the doorway. Behind her stood 2 more staff members. They'd been watching the security footage. They'd seen everything. Officer Mitchell, Sarah said carefully, we need to talk to you, outside. Mitchell looked around the room. The confidence that had carried her through the confrontation was cracking. I was just doing my job. Your job isn't to assume the worst about people based on how they look, Dr. Chen said. His voice was steady but angry. Your job is to protect people, all people. Mitchell stood frozen. The reality of her mistake was starting to sink in, but she wasn't ready to accept it. Not yet. She should have been more clear about who she was, Mitchell insisted. She showed you her ID badge, Sarah interrupted. She told you she was a doctor. She did everything right. You chose not to believe her. The words hit their target. Mitchell's face flushed. She looked at Claire, who sat quietly in her wheelchair. There was no anger in Claire's expression, no satisfaction at watching the officer squirm, just a deep, bone-tired sadness. You want to know why I didn't make a bigger deal about my position? Claire asked softly. Because I shouldn't have to. A badge should be enough. My word should be enough. But you saw a black woman in a wheelchair and decided I must be lying, must be stealing, must be running some kind of scam. Mitchell opened her mouth, closed it, opened it again. I've seen people impersonate staff before. Have you? Claire leaned forward slightly. Or have you just assumed the worst about people who don't look like you? The question hung in the air. Around them, the hospital staff watched silently. They'd all experienced moments like this. Smaller maybe, more subtle, but the same underlying prejudice. Sarah stepped forward. There's more, Officer Mitchell. Dr. Washington isn't just the chief of surgery. Mitchell looked confused. What do you mean? Dr. Chen smiled slightly. It wasn't a happy smile. Maybe you should tell her, Claire. Claire shook her head. Not yet. I want to understand something first. She looked at Mitchell. Why did you assume the worst? What did you see when you looked at me? Mitchell shifted uncomfortably. I saw someone who didn't belong. Because of my wheelchair? No, because of my skin color? That's not— Then what? Claire's voice remained calm, but there was steel underneath it. Tell me what you saw. Mitchell slumped back into her chair. For the first time, she looked uncertain, vulnerable even. I don't know, she whispered. I made an assumption. Based on what? Claire pressed gently. Based on— Mitchell trailed off. She couldn't finish the sentence. Or maybe she wouldn't, because finishing it would mean admitting to prejudices she'd never confronted in herself. Claire had seen this moment before, the exact instant when someone realizes they've been part of the problem. Some people grew from it, changed. Others doubled down and refused to see their own bias. She waited to see which path Mitchell would choose. The door opened again. This time it was Security Chief Marcus Thompson. He carried a tablet. His expression was grave. Officer Mitchell, he said, we need to talk about proper procedure. Mitchell stood up quickly. Chief Thompson, I've reviewed the security footage, Thompson interrupted. All of it. From the moment Dr. Washington entered the building. He turned the tablet around. The screen that showed Mitchell blocking Claire's path. laughing at her credentials, pushing her wheelchair roughly. Mitchell's face went white. "But there's something else you need to know," Thompson continued. He looked at Claire. "Should I tell her to Washington, or would you prefer to?" Claire took a deep breath. She'd been hoping to avoid this, to let it go, to just move on with her day. But watching Mitchell's complete lack of understanding, her refusal to truly see what she'd done, Claire knew something had to change. "Tell her," Claire said softly. Thompson nodded. He turned back to Mitchell. "Officer, Dr. Claire Washington isn't just our chief of surgery. She's not just a pioneering physician who's changed modern medicine. She's the CEO of Memorial Grace Hospital. She has been for the past 5 years." The silence that followed was absolute. Mitchell stared at Thompson, then at Claire, then back at Thompson. Her mouth opened and closed like a fish out of water. "The CEO," she repeated numbly. "That's right," Thompson said. "The person you just accused of theft, she owns this hospital. The person you laughed at, she signs my paycheck. And yours." Claire watched as the full weight of the situation crashed down on Mitchell. The officer's knees seemed to buckle. She grabbed the edge of the table for support. I couldn't have known," Mitchell stammered. "That's exactly the point," Dr. Chen said. "You shouldn't need to know someone's position to treat them with basic respect and dignity." Mitchell turned to Claire. Her eyes were wide with panic now. "Dr. Washington, I'm so sorry. If I had known—" Claire held up a hand. "Stop, please, just stop." The room fell silent again. Everyone waited for Claire to speak, to pronounce judgment, to exercise the power they now all knew she had. "If you had known I was the CEO, you would have treated me differently," Claire said slowly. "That's what you're saying, isn't it?" Mitchell nodded desperately. "But I shouldn't have to be the CEO for you to believe me," Claire continued. Her voice was quiet, but it carried. "I shouldn't have to hold power or authority to be treated as a human being. That's what you still don't understand." Dr. Chen spoke up. "Washington has given millions of dollars to community programs. She created a free clinic for underserved populations. She established a scholarship fund specifically for students with disabilities. She's changed countless lives. But none of that should matter right now," Claire said. "What should matter is that I was a person who told you the truth, and you refused to believe me because of how I looked." Mitchell's composure finally broke. Tears streamed down her face. "I'm so sorry," she whispered. "I don't know what to say." "Say that you'll learn from this," Claire replied. "Say that you'll think twice before making assumptions about people. Say that you'll see people, really see them, instead of seeing stereotypes." But Claire wasn't finished. Claire wheeled herself closer to Mitchell, close enough that the officer had to look directly into her eyes. "Officer Mitchell, I'm going to tell you something that very few people know," Claire began. Her voice was steady, strong. 15 years ago, I was a passenger in a car accident. Drunk driver ran a red light. My best friend died. I was paralyzed from the waist down." Mitchell listened, frozen. "The doctors said I'd never work again, that my career was over, that I should accept my new limitations and move on." Claire paused. "But I didn't accept it. I fought. I learned to adapt. I completed my surgical training from a wheelchair. I developed new techniques that allowed me to operate despite my disability." Dr. Chen added quietly, "She's performed over 3,000 successful surgeries since her accident." Claire continued, "I could have been bitter, could have let that accident define me, could have let people's prejudices and assumptions crush my spirit. But I chose something different. I chose to prove that disability doesn't equal inability, that being in a wheelchair doesn't make me less than anyone else." She looked around the room at the assembled staff. "When I became CEO 5 years ago, I made a promise. I promised that Memorial Grace Hospital would be a place where everyone, staff and patients, would be treated with dignity, where we would see people, not stereotypes, where we would judge based on character and ability, not on appearance or assumptions." Sarah spoke up from the doorway. "And you've kept that promise to Washington. You've transformed this hospital." Claire nodded slowly. Then she turned back to Mitchell. "Which is why this situation is so painful. Because you're not the first person to make assumptions about me based on my wheelchair or my skin color. You're just the most recent. Mitchell wiped her eyes. What happens now? Claire was quiet for a moment. The entire room waited for her response. This was the moment of judgment, the moment of power. What happens now, Claire said finally, is that we make a choice. We can let this be the end of your career. I have that authority, or we can let this be the beginning of something better. Mitchell looked up, confused and hopeful. I'm not going to fire you, Claire said, but I am going to hold you accountable. She wheeled over to her bag and pulled out a folder. 3 months ago, I started developing a new training program. It's designed to address implicit bias in healthcare and security settings, to help people recognize their own prejudices and learn to see beyond them. She handed the folder to Mitchell. You're going to be the first person to go through this program. Every week for the next 6 months, you'll attend workshops. You will meet with counselors. You'll learn about the communities you're supposed to protect. Mitchell took the folder with shaking hands. Why would you do this for me? After what I did? Claire smiled softly. For the first time that morning, it was a genuine smile. Because I believe people can change. Because I believe that education is more powerful than punishment. And because if you learn from this, truly learn, you might save someone else from experiencing what I went through today. She paused. But make no mistake, Officer Mitchell, this is your only chance. If you complete this program and genuinely change your perspective, you can continue working here. If you don't, or if something like this happens again, there won't be a second opportunity. Mitchell nodded vigorously. I understand. I'll do it. I'll do whatever it takes. Good, Claire said. She turned to Thompson. Marcus, can you make sure Officer Mitchell gets enrolled in the first session? Absolutely, Thompson replied. Claire looked around the room one more time, at the staff who'd stood by her, at the officer who'd misjudged her, at the hospital she'd built from her wheelchair and her determination. This is what accountability looks like, she said to everyone present. Not punishment for its own sake, but real consequences paired with real opportunities for growth. This is how we change systems. This is how we build something better. Guam. Chen walked over and placed a hand on Claire's shoulder. You're amazing. You know that. Claire laughed softly. I'm just tired of fighting the same battles. Maybe it's time we train people not to start them in the first place. She wheeled toward the door, then stopped and looked back at Mitchell one more time. Officer, I hope you understand something. What happened today wasn't about me being the CEO. It wasn't about my position or my power. It was about the fact that I'm a human being who deserved basic respect and dignity from the moment you saw me. That's what I want you to remember. Mitchell nodded, tears still on her face. I will. I promise. Later that evening, Claire sat in her office on the top floor of Memorial Grace Hospital. Through the windows, she could see the city lights beginning to twinkle as dusk settled in. She'd finished her meetings, completed her rounds. The day that had started with humiliation had ended with hope. Sarah knocked on her door. Dr. Washington, do you have a minute? Of course. Come in. Sarah entered hesitantly. I wanted to apologize for not speaking up more forcefully this morning. When when she was treating you that way. Claire gestured to a chair. Sit down, Sarah. The nurse sat, her hands clasped in her lap. I knew it was wrong. I knew you were being treated unfairly. But I was afraid of making things worse, and I'm ashamed of that. Don't be, Claire said gently. Fear is a powerful thing. Mitchell had authority in that moment. You did speak up. That took courage. But not enough courage, Brittgren. Claire leaned forward. Sarah, do you know why I created that training program? Sarah shook her head. Because incidents like this morning don't happen in a vacuum. They happen because we live in a society where assumptions about race and disability are so ingrained that good people, like you, freeze when confronted with them. It's not your fault, but it is our responsibility to change it. Sarah smiled through tears. You're really something, Dr. Washington. I'm just someone who's learned that anger without action doesn't change anything, and that the only way forward is through education, accountability, and hope. After Sarah left, Claire sat alone in her office. She thought about her journey, about the accident that had seemed to end everything, about the years of fighting to prove herself, about the countless times she'd been underestimated, dismissed, or mocked. And she thought about Officer Mitchell. about the fear and shame in her eyes when she realized her mistake, about the choice Claire had made to teach rather than punish. She didn't know if Mitchell would truly change. Some people did, some people didn't, but Claire had given her a chance. And in doing so, she'd stayed true to the values that had guided her entire career: dignity, respect, compassion, justice. Her phone buzzed, a text from Dr. Chen. Board meeting next week. We need to talk about expanding your training program hospital-wide. Everyone's talking about what happened today. Everyone wants to do better. Claire smiled. From one morning's injustice, a wave of change. That was how progress happened. Not in grand gestures, but in moments when people chose to respond to prejudice with education. When they chose to build bridges instead of walls. She looked at her reflection in the dark window. A black woman in a wheelchair, a pioneering surgeon, a CEO, a teacher, an advocate, all of these things, none of them more important than the simple fact of her humanity. Tomorrow she would start the real work, the work of changing hearts and minds, the work of building a system where what happened to her this morning could never happen again. But tonight she allowed herself a moment of quiet satisfaction. She'd faced prejudice with grace. She'd held power with wisdom. She'd chosen mercy with accountability. And in doing so, she'd proven once again that the measure of a person isn't in how they're treated when others know their title. It's in how they respond when others see them as nothing. Claire Washington had been seen as nothing this morning. By evening, she'd changed everything. Stories like Claire's remind us that dignity isn't something we earn through titles or positions. It's something we're born with, something that should never be taken away based on how we look or what challenges we face. If this story moved you, if it made you think about assumptions we all make, share it. Talk about it. Let's keep this conversation going. And drop a comment below telling us about a time when someone misjudged you or when you learned to see beyond your own prejudices. Because that's how we change things. One story, one lesson, one moment of understanding at a time.